Thanks, Eric. Ventura County people can have a whoosh. Whoosh. Thank you. That's part of our culture. We send each other some love when we're out there trying to improve our business processes in government. Okay, so I'm only a 7-year-old bureaucrat, so I still have maybe for 3 more years the benefit of fresh eyes, and then I'm spoiled and somebody else has to come in. I spent 17 years in aerospace. And so I was a manufacturing gal. I used to love the smell of 5606 hydraulic fluid. All right? I spent 11 years in nonprofit, and I knew as a bureaucrat on one defining moment. Now, I used to go to dinner parties when I was in aerospace. And we made hydraulics on airplanes, so it made the wings go up and down. And I also did work with infrared technology, so we did some of the Desert Storm work. And then I also did some manufacturing work for underwater lighting and connectors. So we used to do, one of our biggest fun, sexy projects was the Titanic project. You know, when they went down and took pictures of the Titanic. So I used to go to dinner parties. People love to hear stories about dropping off parts in the desert during, you know, when the stealth fighter was just being designed and things like that. And then when I was a nonprofit and go to dinner parties, people love to hear stories about the gang guy who ended up being a teacher and mentoring other young children. But there was the first time I went to a dinner party when I was a bureaucrat, and I had to claim that and say, I work for the government. Now, I found now over the course of time, 2 things happen. One is they don't want to hear me talk. They want to tell me what is wrong with you people. That's one thing. The second thing that they do is they look at me very politely, and then they suddenly see somebody they have to talk to. That's when I knew that I was a bureaucrat. But here we are in beautiful San Luis Obispo on a Friday afternoon with Miller Time around the corner, and you ready to hear me talk about government bureaucracy, so yeah. So here we go. Let's start, okay? Real quick, throw out 3 words. Well, throw out a word that you think of when you think of government bureaucrats. What? Waste? Bureaucrats. So make it personal. What? Lazy. Huh? Overpaid? Thank God. Okay. Anything else? What? Liars. Okay, thank you. Great cooperation, everybody. Now let me hear some words when you think about Apple employees. Innovative. Oh, we got one lazy, huh? Are we joking? Okay, come on. Creative. Dedicated. What was the other one? Focused. Okay, young. And efficient. That would seem a lot easier than the other, right? Okay, people kind of hate bureaucrats. And I started thinking about that at that dinner party. Why did people start treating me so different? Did I change? Right? Did I change so much? And I started to develop some theories around that. One of my theories is that, now I'm not going to do root cause analysis. This is just my theories. One of my theories is that sometimes people confuse politics and policy and bureaucracy, which is mostly about process. So what they do is they just hate all the bureaucrats. Okay. The second thing is well, let me follow that thought a little bit further and say that the logic around that kind of makes sense, right? So if you're driving in traffic and you hate traffic, you suddenly hate all those people around you in the cars. You just hate that. If you're in a country and you can't figure out how to order out of a menu, suddenly you hate French. You hate them so much you won't even eat French fries. All right? And if you hate having your heart broken, then you might be somebody who wakes up bitter and say, I hate all men, or I hate all women. Right? So, and actually that makes me think of a little axiom on that tree falling in the forest. So, women, what do you think? If a man is alone in a forest and speaks his mind, is he still wrong? Whoops. Okay, but the third theory is we got to own it. We bureaucrats have to own it. We actually are confused ourselves, and we often confuse ourselves with politicians. But the first things I did when I went into government, and I was operations director in one of the agencies, I went to their supervisor training to see what everybody was learning. And one of the questions that we had a little breakout group, I said, what do you think your primary job is? And most of them answered was, our primary job is to act as a political buffer. I said, how many think you need to know how everybody else does their job? No. They did not see that as their job. So we need to own that. Some of our processes, I also picked up processes and procedures. They literally, the books cracked open, 1975 on the SOP, you know, things like that. So we need to own some of that stuff. But as far as people are concerned, bureaucrats are very, very hard working people. Okay, I will say that most of my time, having been in private sector, there are all of these things too. Yes, you're going to have some that are lazy and overpaid, but we also have a lot of creative, dedicated, and hardworking, passionate, focused people. What they're in is in a bunch of broken systems. Okay, very old and antiquated broken systems. We've also have people who have been in the environment, in the bureaucratic environment, for their whole career. That is something unique too that I found having gone to a bureaucratic environment. But there is a place for bureaucrats, right? We know that 70% of our Earth is covered in water. 97% of that is salt water. And of the 3% that's left, only 1% is available for human consumption. Now, personally, I'm very fortunate that there's some people sitting around today talking about TMDL. Does anybody know what that is? That's called total maximum daily load. That is the calculation of the maximum amount of pollutants that a water body can contain and still meet safe water standards. So if you're drinking water, if you've driven on the roads, if you breathe air, everybody in the world is affected by government, which is why there's so many strong opinions floating around. Now, in the County of Ventura, we're 8,000 employees. We have 25 different agencies, and they range from anything from healthcare. We have district attorney's office. We have agriculture. I mean, just the gamut of services that are available doesn't lend itself to let's look at one value stream, which is one of the reasons that is very, very difficult. But here's what we did have, is we had a situation that is similar to what private sector has. Our demands suddenly started to exceed our resources. We got comfortable for a really long time. Whenever people said that there was no money, we could wait it out and money would come. So here we are hearing more, let's do more with less, right? We're hearing that again. But this time we've realized, and in fact we make a little funny story about it. We say, I used to work with a guy named Les. Les retired. Les is gone. There is no more Les. So what we recognized is we bureaucrats actually are working too hard, and what we have to do is work less in order to do more. So we started to learn about Lean Six Sigma, and we had a hard time translating it. So those of you who are from other governments or here for the first time, because Paul and I, we went to, well, I didn't have such a hard time because I spent so much years in manufacturing, but we went to Kent State University. We got our black belts over there. It was all manufacturing training. So I come back, and how do I talk to the district attorney, you know, to the doctors? How do I talk to the ag commissioner? How do I talk to all these people about Lean Six Sigma? But we went ahead and jumped in with some willing, brave souls, and here's some of the, I'm going to give you some examples of some of the things we did. We've literally done hundreds of improvements in the County of Ventura, hundreds, okay? And we consider ourselves barely scratching the surface. But I want to show this to you. One is to make you feel good about what's happening in government, and at the end, I'm going to make a request of you. Okay, so you all get taxed based on the assessment of your property, and you have the right to appeal that assessment. So that basically is done between two departments, the assessor's office and the clerk of the board's office. Okay, they each report to different people, and they each have their own database systems. We started to, this is considered the high-level process. This isn't even the steps yet. This is the high-level process. You see all the bullets that are in red? Everything was full of non-value added and waste. In fact, what they found, there was so much duplication that they even laughed. They didn't even know. They've been doing this process for you know, so many years. So then we did a swim lane map. Okay, and here it continues. This is just the front end. This is not even the back end. This is the front end, and we found that there were a total of 92 steps, and our touch time was anywhere from 55 to 73 hours, and all those overpaid people caused us to, for one application, cost about $3,000 to process. So we thought, gee, I wonder if that's good or not. One paper. Okay, so we started benchmarking. Nobody knew. Here's the other thing about government. Nobody knows what it's supposed to be. So you can see that for the front end, our cycle time was between 136 to 218 days. Well, anyway, so on the front end, you can see we simplified our process at this particular Kaizen. We skinnied it down to 45 steps. We could do a lot better. This was a good first step. Okay, so we got it down to about $1,000 per paper. Everybody, woo, victory. Right? You know how much that should cost? It should cost about a nickel. Okay, this whole thing should be automated and cost about a nickel. Now on the other side, the back end, the assessor's office, who actually during the Kaizen, I thought, because assessor's an elected, and electeds, you don't talk to them the same way as you talk to, you know, another bureaucrat. Electeds are special. They report to the people. They don't need to talk to you. They barely need to talk to the CEO. See, in private sector, if the CEO says you're going to do something, everybody jumps, right? Not in government. So these electeds, you know, the staff of the electeds were sitting there and thinking, I actually didn't think they'd do anything, but I'll be darned if they did, if they came back, and they leaned their process as well, and what they found, they did, you know, I pulled data for him, just gave it to him, and what they found is people can actually stipulate before going to a hearing. So they figured, they asked themselves, why are these people able to stipulate? And it was a phone call. That, I'm telling you, that was the change. So first of all, because of this change, 4 years ago, we used to be able to process about 977 to 1,200 appeals. Last year, we did 5,000. Same staff. The assessor's office, okay, the assessor's office reduced their costs, and they are outperforming every assessor's office in the state by double. Okay, so that was pretty exciting. Now here's another thing about government agencies. They like their own stuff, right? And this department actually shared a location, and they shared a building, and they bought their own stuff, public works and general services. Some paved roads, some clean roads, but they each had to have their own equipment. They were so hostile to each other, they actually had a tape that ran from the ceiling all the way across the floor, and they never talked to each other. And to write the charter was 8 months of political massaging, and that poor Greenbelt kept calling me, Elaine, it's political. Ignore it, just keep working. But the leadership stuck with the process. And here's what they were able to do. They were able to develop a cooperation between the teams, and in their first round, they found that they could share equipment and saved almost $500,000. And now this is an ongoing thing that they do every year. Okay, our sheriff's a lean guy, which I'm so grateful about. And his CSI folks heard about it, and they were really excited because they had a backlog of cases, and people were sitting around in jail. So this allowed, when they did their process improvement, their goal was 21 days, because that's the cycle of the DA's office. And as you can see, they got their cycle time down to 17 days. They reduced their backlog to 50%, and the productivity is up. Less people are in jail, and there's a lot of costs associated with jail time, right? Now, Riverside County heard about that, and they came over, and so the forensics people said, come to this meeting. So I sat down and listened, and they asked the team, after they showed them all the charts and everything, what one thing caused this change to work? And I have to hand it to that supervisor, because let me tell you, she came kicking and screaming into that Kaizen. She said, it was me. She said, I'm the person that distributes the work, and I felt that this was my job to do, and it made me feel as though, this Kaizen made me feel as though that I was less valuable. I mean, she was just that open, and I realized that that's not the case at all. My value is in the product, not in the activity that I have. So that was really, I was inspired when I heard that particular supervisor. Now, if you've ever had to pull a permit, This is a big pain point for the whole country. The whole country is looking at permitting. Now, there's lots of permits in the country, in the county, but this one has to do with something that's called discretionary permitting. Sometimes you need a permit, you just get it at the counter. This is one where it involved 4 different agencies, and if you were a customer and needed to pull one of these kind of permittings, you would literally have to go to 4 different locations. You would be pulling 31 different forms, 329 pages. You'd fill out 800 questions, and 180 of them were duplicate questions. Okay? So this was one of those where nobody believed it could be done. Okay, nobody believed it. People showed up to that. There was 40 people in that Kaizen. 40 people who believed it couldn't be done. But they did it. And so here, 2 years later, they did a whole value stream analysis. They got a Get to Excellence plan going, and there were 23 major Kaizens projects and a bunch of Just Do It's. 2 years later, these are their results. And they're still going at it. This is still not very good. Here's 2 social worker people right here, green belts. And this was one of the first things that they did. Some of their clients have to go to the DA's office, the parents have to go there. And they had a process that was full of error and rework, and there was all the time pointing fingers at each other. And they sat and did a Kaizen. And what they did was they made it error-free. So they relegated that work to a management assistant. And so it freed up a social worker who gets to do what? Social work. They get paid. They're actually doing what they're overpaid to do. Okay? And the agency head was happy because 50 people, or whatever that caseload is, get served without additional cost to the agency. And that's a pretty good use of your taxpayer dollars as well. Okay, here's overprocessing. Our engineers found that we were cleaning our canals to the extent that you could eat an egg on it. Okay, and in Ventura County, we're coastal, so there's leaves flying all over the place. So they decided, we'll do it exactly as we're expected to, and they saved $600,000, which they now repurpose towards canal repair. Do you think that's a better use of your taxpayer money? Canal repairs versus just getting in there and cleaning out leaves or cars? So there's found money all over the place, okay? Some of these things are things just like, let's look at our cell phone bills and see if we can make them better. Wouldn't you think that all governments would be clamoring to try to use Lean and Six Sigma to make their business process better? I'm seeing some of this, and I'm seeing some of that. Okay, here's my opinion. Why not? There's no incentive. What else? What? Eliminate jobs, hard to change. All of those things are right. Some of the things we heard is we want to protect our employees. They're overworked. Our employees like it just fine. It's the leadership. Okay? So let's talk a little bit more about that. In 1862, this is what Lincoln said: the dogmas of the past are inadequate to the stormy present. The occasion is piled high with difficulty, and we must rise with it. As our case is new, we must think and act anew, and we must disenthrall ourselves, and we will save our country. So this idea of disenthralling ourselves is really the key to being successful in government. We got to let some things go. This is why those people who stepped out, those leadership and staff that stepped out, are so very special. Okay, I can't really think of very many industries except for entertainment where you make the news every single day. Okay, so when you step out and you admit to error, right, you have to put it out there. The data has to come out. You put yourself, they believe they're putting themselves in harm's way. In fact, many of them got promoted, and it's kind of a joke in the county. How's your week? It's great. I didn't get in the paper. Okay, they got promoted for staying under the radar. So now all of a sudden, here's what we're asking them to do, is to get ourselves out there. I just threw this up here to say that we all do it. We all are enthralled, okay? So this is some of the most innovative stuff with icons and the internet and mobile devices and all that. But look at the icons. And we're teaching a new generation to love these icons, and they probably never used a rotary phone or use a physical address book or, heaven forbid, a floppy disk. Okay, we're teaching them to be enthralled through the next generation. We all do it. So here are some of the things that government are enthralled with. This is why they don't want to do Lean Six Sigma. We say we're not driven by profit and we don't have competitive pressure. In fact, the idea of competition is so foreign that we often say we don't have customers, we have hostages. right? If you're a customer coming to get a permit and you say, how long is this going to take? And here's our rail data, 40 days to 720 days. Okay, who's going to accept that? But we know you can't say, I'm not going to do this in San Luis Obispo County. I'm going to Ventura County. Okay, we know you can't do that. So we have to change our mindset about that. And then here's some disincentives. Somebody mentioned disincentives. If you decrease funds, it means that you de-obligate those funds in next year's budget. So we have this use it or lose it mentality, which we also have to change. Some of our agencies never measure anything. Okay, so this idea of measuring and knowing if you're better, it takes away some of your ability to duck and hide, and and so that is also a disincentive. And also it's foreign, and you have to learn something new, which is also very hard. And finally, there's no process owners like that permitting. It goes across many agencies, and they all have their own particular politics in their own different agencies. So this is also something that we have to get past. And I really like this poem by Helen Keller, because this speaks to the vulnerability that those brave souls who step out and do lean feel. So here's what we ask our lean leaders to do. This is from Ken Miller. If you ever want to read some good lean reading on government, Ken Miller's the book to read. The reward for doing good work is more work. Do it anyway. All the money that you're saving being more efficient will get cut from your budget now and forever. Find efficiencies anyway. All the bold reforms you will make will be undone by the next administration. Make bold reforms anyway. There's no time to think about improving what we do. Make time anyway. That applies to you guys too, right? Manufacturing people. Employees may fight the change every step of the way. Involve them anyway. The future is unpredictable and largely out of your hands. Plan anyway. The press only cares when something goes wrong. Share your success stories anyway. Legal will never let you do it. Simplify it anyway. Our legal department loved that one. If you develop your people, they will move on to better jobs. Train them anyway. And your ideas at best will make everyone else look good, and at worst get you ostracized by your coworkers. Share your good ideas anyway. Okay, so for you guys, so we're asking a lot of our bureaucrats, okay, and we're not alone. This is not just Ventura County. Ohio is, in fact, Ohio has mandated lean in some of their government services, and Washington State has just mandated lean. And if you go to some of those websites, you'll see there's some brave souls out there that are doing lean. Shasta County is doing lean. LA County and a couple of their agencies are doing lean. They're out there. So don't be a hater. Get out there and talk to a bureaucrat, actually have a conversation. And you're going to find, because people are starting to talk about lean right now, and so they're going to ask their customers, the voice of the customer. Try to be specific about when you answer their questions. Be a little bureaucratic savvy, so reach out. Go and call your CEO for your county or your city manager. Write to your assembly people, write to your governor, write to anybody that you want. Write one letter and put different people's names on it and sending out. But here's what you should tell them. Hey, can I help you? You all are very experienced in here. There's no reason why any of you can't begin a conversation with your local government. It is your community. We are here to serve you, right? We have often not asked because all we do is get a knock on the side of the head. So what I'm asking you to do is to be open to having a productive conversation with your local government so that we can be more productive in helping you. And finally, tread a little softly. Your bureaucrats are out there. They're feeling pretty vulnerable. They're excited about what they're doing, but they're largely quiet about it. Because what happens is, in fact, we just had a discussion in our county, and we like the words, we want to provide simple, seamless government. I like those words, don't you? I mean, who wouldn't want their government to be easier to deal with? And, like what is that office? Staples, the easy button. Why shouldn't it be a little bit easier to work with your government? But we don't really want to publish it because we're afraid that people will be impatient and say, well, that's not easy. That's not, and I'm thinking, great, let's do that. Let's collect all of those places that aren't easy because it'll help us focus on where we need to improve. So tread a little lightly with next time you see a bureaucrat. They're breaking away from the pack, and we need you. Thank you. Oh, good.
Whoosh.
Whoosh! How do you get your permit approved?
What resources does government have available to them, besides people like you who came from industry with the knowledge? Where do you turn when you're looking to bring those skills in?
Well, when we first started, we were very fortunate because then, yes, what resources does government have? So I'm looking to you guys to be the resource. We were very fortunate in Ventura County that one of our agency heads was an ex-captain of the naval base, Naval War Air Force Station, Naval War Station in Port Hueneme. And they had a Lean Academy, Lean Six Sigma Academy, and so they offered us a couple of free seats. And by the way, the first Kaizen we ever did was in our purchasing. Everybody hates purchasing. They have 500% increase in productivity. And the supervisor said, what happened to my staff? So immediately got the attention of our board of supervisors and our CEO, which is why I'm asking you to call him. Because some of our local governments, we may not do it on our own. You know, we might need a little bit of encouragement. That's what I'm looking for, encouragement.
Are there associations or websites that...
Well, the American Society for Quality now has a lean government division. And there is a group of us that email each other all the time, but things like this, I mean, I'd love to see more government people here and a focus on government. And two things as it regards to interfacing is, you know, try to find out things like, there's something called the California, tell me again, CSAC? State Association of Counties. There's these associations all over the place. I'd love to see each one of those have a lean component in their breakout sessions. And that would offer, you know, a greater broad access to the information. So it's a little catch as catch can right now.
Have your improvements trickled up at all to any powers that be that could help distribute this?
Well, here's another thing we happen to be very fortunate about is that it was actually our board of supervisors that, you know, when we had that pilot in purchasing that said, we're going to do this. And the new CEO, when she came in, a few years ago, we have a new CEO now who's very, very, not just supportive, engaged. He never stops talking about it. So it actually didn't trickle up, it trickled down, which is perfect. You know, I've done some training in some other counties where the department heads don't show up, so the staff, you know, they don't care. People do what they want, right? So it helps if somebody higher up wants it. It helps you to want it a little bit more. Anybody else? I can't answer your permit question. Yeah, we knew we had culture change. We're starting to have culture change when we had a courier, a mail courier, so somebody who delivers the mail. He saved our elections people $13,000 because he told his supervisor, hey, you know, these guys are mailing stuff all the time to the East Coast and paying special mailing, and it fits in a flat rate box. So the culture change wasn't the $13,000, it's that he spoke. That the supervisor went to an elected official and suggested it, and the elected official invited that courier to come in and train his staff on how to do that. That was the culture change. So we're seeing these kind of things all over the place. And the other culture change that I see is I get calls from supervisors and they go, hey, guess what, I got a problem. That kind of voice. Okay, that's different. So that's a new thing too. Anybody else? Yes, sir? Hi. We have about 150 green belts. We've trained 3,000 employees. We're out of our 8,000, and we're trying to expose every single one of them through an online. We have our stuff on SlideShare if you ever want to look, and it's under Service Excellence, right? Ventura County Service Excellence, and we have a little video.
So would you say that the Kaizen training is part of your, you know, say supervisor level or managerial level training package? Is this
Yes.
what's expected of
Yep.
those people?
Our CEO did champion training, and you know how we did our simulation with the airplanes. We have one in the county where we shoot these rubber balls. Our CEO was down there on the floor shooting the rubber balls, mapping out the process. And, I mean, so yeah, top down, all the way through and through. That's our vision for that. And in fact, our vision isn't just lean our county of Ventura as an organization, but the entire county. And we're now this year talking about working with cities on making business permitting easier when they have to cross city-county boundaries. So that's the vision's spreading. Thank you.